Back to this. If you people are interested, we can do, right? This is more from the legal angle, negative approach. We don't use it, somebody else infringes upon it. For how much do we claim? It's not relevant for our valuation. Anyway, it's not even there as an approach, to be honest, in any of the books, negative approach. Right? So we come to trademarks. Again, this is the broad history of the Act and the clauses, but something is important here. There are so many types of marks, just to understand. There is trademark, there is service mark, certification mark, community mark, trade dress, collective mark. When we say mark has so many sort of subsects within it. What is important for us is trademark, which we are going to see, and I have highlighted this. Why have I highlighted this? Collective mark.
Branding.
No. At some point in time, we have to, realize something. Our logo also, right? So CA Institute logo is a collective mark. All of us as professionals, members of this body, are eligible to use the CA logo. It's a collective mark. Again, a generic name, a generic term cannot be registered as a trademark. So some company cannot go and say escalator will be my trademark, kerosene will be my trademark, aspirin, because they have become household names. Even if you see, now potential generic names are like Xerox. Do we say photocopy? No, we say Xerox. So now these will, almost any company, even including Xerox Corporation itself, cannot say that Xerox is my trademark, nobody else should use it, because it's in common usage. Now these things will not be allowed to be registered as a trademark of any company, because they have become generic in their meaning, their understanding. Band-Aid, Photoshop, right? So broadly, I have given one example here. If we project the economic income for the first 5 years in the horizon period, and there is a terminal value. Now the question can come, why terminal value? I said, if you remember, there is no need of a terminal value because everything has a limited life. Why terminal value? Any views here? Why terminal value in the valuation of trademark?
Because the name will continue to be there even after the 5-year period. So there is a possibility of refilling that trademark.
No, the answer is more simple than this. Patents have a life of 20 years. Copyrights have a life of the author plus 70 years. Trademark forever. That's right. Simple, yeah. So because it has perpetual life, although if you look at the Ahmedabad registry rules, at one point in time you can register only for 10 years. But you can always go and renew. Right? 10 years is what it's registered for. But we use terminal value still because it has got perpetuity to itself. In fact, this is one of the unique IPs for that matter, like brand name or trademark. When brand name gets registered, we call it trademark in its filtered form. So we use terminal value. Now in this case, one thing I want to say is the discount rate that they've used is the cost of capital of that company. Now what is the discount rate they've used? 15%, right? So what I've shown you right now is giving you a value of 833, let's assume it's in millions, I'm not sure, right? Applying 15%. But more often in valuation exercise, the rate should be higher, as we already discussed. And how much higher? It's a matter of professional judgment and so many factors, right? Assume for a moment that we use a higher discounting rate, like 18% instead of 15%. Like it gives you a like-for-like comparison, except the discount rate. So it should not be 833 million. Applying the composite cost of capital of the company, it will be lower because we use a higher discounting rate. Okay. Copyrights, purposefully I'm not covering the valuation part of it, because there's one straightforward example as a question and answer in Damodaran on valuation. Incidentally, he has given a copyright valuation on this book itself. He says how to value the copyright on Damodaran on valuation. So it's straightforward, you just go through it. It gives a variability between sustainable cash flows and those cash flows. It's a small sort of example, illustration. That's why I've not covered, because it's specifically there. What I'm covering is what is not there and what is difficult to understand and what is intuitive. Right? But in simple terms, copyright, if we have to remember, is a right to copy. Just use it. If I am the author of this book, I own the copyright to this book from the moment I finish writing this book. I don't have to even wait for registering. The moment I have written this book and completed, I am presumed to be the owner of copyrights related to this literary work. Right? So only I have the right to make copies of this book. In practical world, what happens? Forget it all. We saw that generic term Xerox, so everything gets just Xeroxed, and now it's lost significance. Copyright, how to make copies, how to share it on the internet. Everything is there on the internet. Patent, when we register, we get the right. Copyright, once you finish writing itself, it becomes your thing, and anybody who is trying to infringe upon your work, then you can file a legal case against him, and you have to prove the authentic source, originality, all that concept. But the owner of the copyright only has the right to copy. Now in practice, what happens is, and actually it's related to an individual copyright, but how do because companies cannot write books, right? They cannot write programs. An individual has to write it. In the corporate terminology, corporates employ the research team, and they work under strict covenants, under strict sort of agreement, that they'll be working on developing certain thing or writing certain analogs or programs or whatever, and whatever is the copyright generated out of that work will belong to the company. In such cases, the owner of the copyright remains that particular individual, but only in a very limited sense, because when you're filing this copyright application, it should include the name of the corporate and the person who actually worked on that project, only for that matter. Who can exploit that copyright? Only the corporate, because there are legalities there, right? Section 17, 18, 19. One concept is important in copyrights. There's a fair dealing concept. Now we are doing a valuation course for the purpose of understanding, for the purpose of academic sort of extension of the financial wisdom. We can take the examples from Damodaran, we can discuss for our own purpose. So there is a concept of fair dealing. So we are not making any sort of commercial money out of this. This is for propagation of the knowledge, and we take his permission in most of the cases, but not in such presentations where it's meant for knowledge share, right? If we have to use it in a different way, if we are writing a book, if I am writing a book and I have to use something that is done by him, I need to take his permission first, right?
Even if the book is given free?
Even if the book is given free.
You are writing a book?
Yes.
You are making some course from, but then you are not making any commercial listing out of that. You are giving free to your students or whoever. Even then it has to be on take permission.
In copyrights, it's a good question. In copyrights, I think up to 60% you can use others' work, and you have to give reference. Till the time you do that, you don't have to take permission, because wherever because wherever you're using their content, you're giving the source. You're disowning that work by that. So that is fine. But once you exceed that 60%, and most of things is borrowed from this is without the source, there comes a problem. Okay.
In your case, even supposing you are putting it in a blog in the internet, it's the same thing. then.
But how would you identify who has put it on the blog? I mean, on my blog I put it.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever way. I mean, whatever way.
You mentioned the source.
The way of doing it is different. But through your blog, so many people are using it free of cost who would have otherwise had to buy the book to see what it was. It's a way, right? So there can always be a claim upon the person, right, who is infringing upon that copyright. So IPRs at a glance, just look at them. Like I said, only trademark is a unique thing which has a unlimited life, renewable after 5 years. This is 20 years, that is life of the author possess. Invention, source identification, expression of work, all what we discussed. But in a nutshell, if you want to compare all the three. Geographical indications, like I said, in Chennai, we've got a GI registry, geographical indication registry. What is geographical indication? Anybody who has heard of GI? You've got a registry in Chennai itself. Tirupati Laddu, Kanjipuram silk, Salem steel, I would say, Bombay Hapus mango, Darjeeling tea. These are all specific to that particular geography, right? No individual or no specific company, Tirunelveli Halwa, no individual or a corporate can claim exclusive rights to it. It's specific to that particular geography or region. All this is procedure of how you get it. So these are the examples. Agra Peta, Nagpur orange, by the way. Yeah. It is not relevant how we value this because no company has exclusive rights to it. But just to understand that this is also a form of intangible which is specific to a particular geography, right? We should know that. Specifically because we have the GI registry in Chennai, we should know. So brand name. Just take a look at it. Soft asset, hard asset. And at the extreme end, you have how to value the brand. This is one perspective of 2 or 3 perspectives. The sum of the discounted premium attributable to the brand less variable costs less fixed. I mean, it's just as a reference chart. I saw it somewhere. I've just used it here. We will do extensive model when we come to that. Look at the second one. It says firm market value minus firm book value. So it says whatever is that difference is totally brand name. And to share with you, brand name is one of the most significant intangible asset. So we can either say that difference is goodwill, or we can say under goodwill it's actually brand name, or I can only think of one other thing, which is like you can ascribe those cash flows to trademark, because they are company, across entire company. Those things are used across all the products. Like for example, Tata, whether they make Tata tea or they make commercial vehicles or cars, that logo will be there across products, right? So it's quite far-reaching in its effect. So it's possible to say that the firm market value minus book value is entirely going to goodwill or brand name or trademark, because they are firm-wide sort of present. Yes.
How do we segregate the cash flow?
Yeah, we'll come to that. That's what this section is about. Brand name. So how to value it? I have to hard press it. Can do brand valuation. So it's not just a value from so many perspectives. It's also so many professionals who can actually be engaged to do brand valuation. But we want to smile. So we will only focus here. This thing I have sourced from Infosys annual report, additional information, 2011 and 12. Just look at what Infosys has done. Now is the time to use template. We can use similar template in any valuation exercise that we do, right? So just for that purpose, I have sort of used it here. What in essence Infosys does is it takes its operating profit for the last 3 years. It does a presumptuous reduction for non-brand income, which is very minimalistic. It's not even like 10%. And then it says adjusted for non-brand related operating income, you get the adjusted operating profit. And since this amount, the adjusted amount was incurred 2 years back, this is current year, this is 1 year back, this is 2 years back. So you adjust it for inflation factor. This is 1 because it is current year, right? So you have inflation adjusted numbers and you give more weightage to the latest year, 3, 2, 1. You arrive at the weighted average operating profit. Then there is a remuneration of capital. This line is very important. Till now I think it's straightforward what they have done, right? We can even do from there. We can even call out the numbers from their annual report and we can do. What is the remuneration of capital? That's the key to understand here.
Interest on it. Dividend. ROI.
Wow.